to this edition of the Final Whistle on Air Media. And thanks to all the people who've watched our shows. We're very heartened by the figures and they're fantastic. That's due to our erudite and well-tuned in panel that we have on here every week. There's no doubt about that. And press the red button to subscribe to our channel. info@theirmedia.tv is our usual email. And thank you for the emails. We'll get around to read them out some night. You must... now, obviously, good evening, Joe Waters.
Good evening, Pat. Good evening, Chris.
And good evening, Chris, and welcome, Chris Price, and welcome along to this edition.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Now, we have, the Premiership might be finished in Britain, but we still have a lot of soccer to talk about. We have a bit of golf to touch on, bit of rugby. The United Rugby Championship is down to the last four. We'll touch on tennis, Nadal making history, and we have the GA matches as well to round off the night. So I suppose we start first. I mean, obviously, lads, Ireland were beaten by Armenia 1-0. It was a fantastic goal. I must admit that. It was a great goal, but England were beaten by Hungary. Wales qualified for the first time since 1958 for the World Cup, I do believe. The Netherlands, I thought, were very impressive. They destroyed Belgium. Portugal destroyed Switzerland in the Nations League. And what else? Whatever. And, of course, Joe, this is for Joe and all your friends here on Garryowen. Grimsby Town, back in the Football League. In style, Joe.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, they played very well. Very well.
Pike Rovers won the playoff between themselves and Fairview. They had a toss for the venue. Fairview won that. Only cost road, and for anybody who knows Limerick. And they won the league. That's Pike Rovers in Fairview ground, which made it, I suppose, twice as sweet. But great crowd there yesterday morning at 10:30. But anyway, we'll start off. Chris, did you see the debacle in Armenia? Did you see any bit of it?
No, I spared myself from that, to be honest with you. I mean, in all honesty, my golf game was worse than Ireland playing, but then I'd rather have a bad golf game than watch that nonsense, I swear to God. I saw the goal. Okay, good strike, fair enough. I don't know. They're playing 4 matches in a very short space of time, right? And I was listening while I was getting soaking wet down in Thurles yesterday. I had the radio on, listening to the debate about the match, and the guy Keith Tracy, I think his name was, he basically thinks Scotland will do a number on us home and away, and the only hope Ireland have against Ukraine is that if they've had really 2 tough battles to try and qualify the World Cup, that emotionally would have been draining for them, and that's the only hope that has been offered. And I think if you're going down that route of hoping that the other team are so down that they can't pick themselves up, then we're on a loser. I mean, look, we've said this before about Irish soccer teams at the moment for the last current couple of years. They're just a bunch of championship players that are playing, and if any of them are playing in Premiership clubs, they may be on the books of Premiership clubs, but they're not actually getting regular games, and that's always been concerning. The flow of talent that comes from Ireland to, as Joe would know, from Ireland to England is completely different now to what it was in the 70s. The players are just not there, and the clubs won't take them because they can't take them because they have to be over 18 now, I believe. And that's just a huge, huge problem for Irish players going over. And now I believe that there's actually encouragement for the Irish players to stay at home to try and their luck with the League of Ireland. But the standard is not the same, so there's a huge problem. It's going to be a never-ending spiral of, mediocrity, because that's exactly what it's come down to.
Yeah. And Joe, did you get to see any of the match?
I didn't see. I didn't see this one. I just read about it.
Yeah.
But, what Chris is saying there. This is just something that has been coming for a long while. At one point when I was younger, and they were bringing kids like me over at 15, and the talent pool was confined to England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, and the Republic of Ireland. and that was where they chose their players from. Now they're able to get players from all over the world, and the talent pool is hugely different. And I mean, to be honest, I was shocked. I'm shocked when I watch games and I read about guys, and they were with Irish guys that were with Manchester United and didn't make it there, you know. And I mean, there've just been a ton of them that have been at United and didn't make it. And I think it's just going to get worse and worse for us. You know, really, I think that the future of Irish soccer is going to come down to immigrants moving in here and bringing a better talent pool with them. I mean, that just seems to be the way it's going to have to go.
Well, I mean, it is depressing in one way, but another way, as you were saying, the reason for the Nations League was to give weaker teams like Ireland and Armenia and Georgia and all them, give weaker teams 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 games so that they'd have another avenue of qualifying for a competition, and also another way of moving up the seeding, so to speak, so that qualification in the long term may become, I can see the thing behind it. But in our case in Ireland, the FAI really has to they're entrusted with running soccer in this country. They have to really get their act together, build up our own league, build up the League of Ireland, put resources in, put money in, improve the facilities, make it attractive for players to stay at home. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, but the problem, Pat, with that is that when you look at it, that the stadia that the Irish club teams are playing are, you know, they're derelict. I mean, you take Dundalk for an example. Dundalk are playing in what would normally be classed as a condemned building, right? They are showing no signs whatsoever. When they won the league and when they were sold, there was a lot of money. When they qualified for the Europa League, they made a lot of money. They injected cash into their squad, right? But when they didn't start winning trophies, whatever, they sacked the manager, then they rehired him, they sacked him again. Players went left, right, and centre. Cork City was the same a few years ago. They basically sold half their squad to Preston to make ends meet.
They did.
The point is that the problem in the Irish League at the moment is that there is no proper structure at 14, 15, 17, and 19. It's only starting to happen now, right?
It is.
But let me tell you a story that I was told from a guy who was well connected with a certain club, right? That they went to play from one end of the country in an under-19 match, right, against a crowd in Donegal. They had to travel up and down the same day from this part of the country where I am, in the Midwest. It's a 5-hour journey by coach. It's a 5-hour back, right? Now, they didn't have the funds to stay overnight, okay? Now, you're asking kids or 18 or 19 to sit in a coach for 5 hours, play a match and sit back in a coach. And you're supposed to be playing in the National League. So that's not preparation. No. That's only asking for disaster.
No. Anyway, look, we wish, I mean, there's calls.
The thing though, Pat, I mean, the other side to that is, you know, we're talking now about the likes of Armenia and we're talking about Georgia. I mean, these countries didn't even exist as independent countries in the 70s.
Yeah.
I mean, they were under the umbrella of the USSR and Yugoslavia and all that. So now all of a sudden, all these countries have their own international teams. Uh-huh. And they have, I mean, however you look at it, they have their own leagues within their countries as well. And they're developing players. So we're probably on a level with those countries in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. But they're so far ahead of us technically that I don't know how long it's going to take us to make up for it. But, you know?
Yeah, the point I'm making, lads, is that one of the good things that they did was going to summer soccer. Summer soccer was a good thing. That's not because the conditions can be quite appalling in the winter, as you know yourself. Okay,
yeah, that's true.
because the pitches are not up to the same standard. But in summertime they can be the same standard. It can be good standard. But the point I'm making is this: is that if you're selling, it's like in any business, to sell a product you have to make it attractive to Joe Public. If you're going to a stadium that basically, and I put it to this way, I don't live too far away from Ennis Cusick Park, right? And I was speaking to the county chairman there last Thursday night, and he was telling me they've spent an entire fortune on doing the stand-up and putting new toilets, and especially toilets for women, right? Because one of the major overriding complaints about Cusick Park in Ennis was that it was for women to go to the toilet, there was a never-ending queue, and they missed half the match. Now, I was in Thurles on Sunday behind it in one of the terraces, and one of the things my wife said to me when she came back is, "Jesus, those toilets were fantastic." I said, "There's so many, it goes back so far, and they've invested an awful lot of money." So she's going to go back there because she sees that the money has been spent to make it convenient and comfortable for her. So if you're going to go to a stadium where the lads are kind of up against the wall because that's the way it is, because you want to, I think Joe might probably criticize me for saying this, but you're harking back to days of nostalgia where it's like a rough and ready. This is what it was in the 60s and 70s. But people have moved on from that. You look at Thomond Park. I could never understand why the rugby fraternity, who were always well-heeled, never developed Thomond Park way before its time. Because these are the guys, right, that want to go to the fancy restaurant, the good pub with the nice pint, and if they didn't get the right service, they complain. But they found it okay on a Saturday afternoon to stand in the rain with no proper facilities. I could never understand it. One of the best things I ever did in Limerick was by developing Thomond Park to the standard it is now.
Yeah, and that's
that's very true. I was at home a few years ago and I went up to Jackman Park. We took the lads up there to watch Limerick play Dundalk when they were winning the League of Ireland regularly. Stephen Kelly was the manager. And guys had gone to the bathroom against the wall over there, And then I go to Grimsby Town 2 weeks ago to Blundell Park, and it's a non-league ground, right? There's 6,000 people in at the game. The capacity now, because of all seating, is 8,000, but they don't sell all the seats because some of them don't have good sightlines.
Yeah,
you don't see the game for it. So 6,000. But the place, you compare that to the Markets Field, and it's night and day, and we're talking about a national league in our own country that we do not have. Maybe in Dublin we have a couple of stadiums that are.
Well, Tallaght Stadium is a fine stadium with Shamrock Rovers. It is. What does it mean? What does it mean for Grimsby Town now? Is there winning money? Is there money for winning that, or is there a grant, or what? How does it work?
Well, you get more. Obviously, by being promoted, you get more money. Each team, as it's in each league, gets a certain amount of money at the start of the season, and they will probably have won money for getting promoted. And then they'll also now get their share of the spoils from the League Two. Yeah. And it's not going to make any difference to them crowd-wise because they're not going to be able to bring in any more people.
No.
Because of the stadium and the way it is. It may mean that travelling support will bring more people, and that would be a boon to them. But as far as their own,
what about sponsorship? Would that be more encouraged? Because they're
it is a different level once you go from the National League to the Football League. Then you do get more serious interest in it. So, but again, it's mainly people that love the game and put their own money into it. And I had a long conversation with one of the directors who picked me up at Heathrow Airport, and we drove 4.5 hours from Heathrow to Grimsby, and we were going over the ins and outs of the club and what have you.
Yeah.
And the club is determined that it's not going to go into debt to try and get somewhere that the people would like them to be. They're going to run it on a sound financial basis. The owners have money, but they're not, they're not mega millionaires.
Yes.
So you have to, they have things that they want to do. They want to improve the training ground. They want to bring that up to scratch and make it better.
Yeah.
Some improvements. I mean, they're talking about trying to build a new stadium, but that's going to cost £30 million. And if you build a new stadium with £30 million, how are you going to get that money back?
That's true.
So,
yeah.
So it's so that is a no-go at the moment. The money that they have, they're going to concentrate on building the team for the future.
And we saw that Denmark beat France, just to wrap up the URC nation. Denmark beat France 2-1, which is a good result for Denmark. And we saw that Portugal beat. Did you see any of those matches, lads? No, Portugal beat.
Saw a bit of Portugal.
Ronaldo got 2 goals there.
Yeah, scored 2 goals, a couple of good ones.
Yeah.
Messi scored 5 goals for Argentina the other night.
He did.
I have to. I think one of the things. I mean, I saw the news report on the England match. Okay, and I think something is amiss here big time. That match should have been played behind closed doors. Yet they were able to circumnavigate the rule book on this one and say that kids could go as long as they were accompanied by an adult. And then when England came out, now I'm not a fan of England, as everyone knows, but when England came out, they were booed mercilessly. Now, why was that match not played behind closed doors? All right, what does it say about the kids these days if they're supposed to go with their parents on it? Was it the kids that were booing, or was it their accompanied parents or adults that were booing? And I think, to be honest with you, this is not the first time that England have had a bit of an issue with Hungary and Bulgaria and whatever, right? And some teams are going to have to take a stand on this and say, do you know what, lads, we're not playing in this kind of atmosphere, because I mean, what does it send out when a country gets suspended for what they are doing, yet they can circumnavigate the rule book to allow 40,000 attend?
Well, I think that obviously the ingenuity of someone who thought of that they'll have to include adults and children, that there'll be nobody actually allowed in. They'll have to put it down in writing in the rule book.
It's going to be behind closed doors, and that means close the bloody gates, because I mean, it's a bit like when you buy. It's like when you buy a dud kind of, say, product in the shop, and the old joke was, Jesus was at a shop with big windows because they saw you coming. I mean, somebody must have basically pulled the wool over UEFA's eyes on this one.
But I don't think that UEFA even really cares, to be honest.
True.
After what happened in France,
shocking,
last week.
Yep.
All they care about is the
television
money.
Television
that's all they care about is the money. They don't care. They don't care about the fans. They don't care about what's right and what's wrong with the racial stuff. They have no interest in stepping in to do anything like that. I just saw the other day where what's his name? He was a manager of West Ham for a while, and Alan was Pardew.
Pardew.
Alan Pardew, and he was managing, I think, in Bulgaria, in some country, and the fans booed and racially abused their own players, and he quit, walked out the door, and said, "I cannot be associated with this." And until somebody actually makes a stand and kicks somebody out of a competition, and says, "Okay, this is not acceptable. You're going." And until such time as that, it's not going to change.
You're
it's
right.
going to,
And the governing body is UEFA. It's up to UEFA, as you said, to do something. But England as well. I mean, England, first of all, the naivety of the manager and the people in charge of the team and the national team to take the knee in Hungary before the match.
That's only asking for trouble.
What in the name of God were they thinking of? I mean, that is ridiculous. Do they not know where they are, you know? I mean, that was ridiculous and naive of them. And I'm tell you, the time that they brought in taking the knee, that destroyed the game. It incensed loads of people. Taking the knee has nothing to do with racism at all whatsoever in my book. It's just a shrill, like a shrill, loud shrill from people. For God's sake.
Your black players are stopping to do that because the black players are saying it means nothing.
Means nothing.
Right.
Yeah. And so England were the architect of the booing. I'm not condoning it, mind you. It was shocking. But to take the knee, when they heard the hostile atmosphere, I don't know really, lads. That manager with England, I think his time is up.
No, he won't be. No. How is his time up? No.
No.
Well,
he could win them. He could win them a World Cup this year. You just wait and see. He has as good a chance as about half a dozen other teams. Why are they going to get rid of him?
With Harry Maguire at the back, he will.
But you know, I mean,
look at the group.
Really, you look at the results this last weekend. I mean, just think about what's happened here. England have players in their team, and I saw the same thing with Andy Robertson for Scotland against Ukraine earlier on in the week. They've played over 60 games, and now they're going and playing these Mickey Mouse games afterwards. You know, who really cares about them? You know, do the players? I mean, Holland beating Belgium 4-0.
Yeah.
What does that say, or what bearing does that have on what the Belgian team will be like in the World Cup? I don't think it has anything to do with it. Well, again, you've got weary players, you know.
And before we leave soccer, we'll come back to it again. A special congratulations to Pike Rovers on winning the league in a number of years. I mean, I think it's been 5 or 6 years since they won it. Here in Limerick, they beat Fairview Rangers in Fairview Rangers ground yesterday morning, and they won it 2-1. Fairview scored first, but Pike Rovers got the winner in the 92nd minute. Fair play to them. They kept plugging away. It's on YouTube, lads, if you want to see it, if you take your time to see it. And it's on Facebook.
I saw the winning goal.
So there you go. Anyway, they had a great time up there the weekend. I can tell you that much. I wasn't there myself, but I know from people who were there today when I met them, they had fairly dark colours around their eyes, you know, and they had a throaty speech as well. So we know what that's from. Anyway, the final whistle is the program on their media on TV. We'll just briefly touch on golf. The US Women's Golf Championship was on the weekend, and in North Carolina, Min Ji Lee won it with minus 13 under, and 67, 66, 67 and 71 minus 13. And our own Leona Maguire had a good finish. She finished at minus 2. She's 70, 68, but her last round, of course, was 74, which really scuttled her chances, you know. Nelly Corda made her comeback after the operation for blood clots, and she did well as well. But Maguire did well. She won €240,000 for her troubles, lads. It's a nice bit of money for the women's golf, I think, anyway. And strangely enough, the Memorial Tournament was won but minus 13 as well. If you're watching the weekend, Chris, do you see any of the golf? Billy Horschel won that. Lowry finished at +1. $68,000 he won.
Yeah. I didn't see much of it now because I was elsewhere on Sunday.
I know that.
I think Horschel won it by a good few shots.
I did, yeah.
And I think the Irish lads kind of were well down the field.
They were.
Yeah, so I didn't really pay much attention towards it. I think the events are going to turn this week to golf to the new LIV one, and it's just been announced. Breaking news, guys! Just been announced that Phil Mickelson will be taking the final 48th spot this week in England. which
That's
I
no
think is of
surprise.
absolutely no surprise.
None whatever.
And we were joking today. That
Yeah.
Kevin Na, who resigned from the PGA Tour, and I said to one of the lads, well, what's going to happen now is that the average round is going to be sped up by 15 minutes because Kevin Na is not going to be playing anymore.
No.
So because he is painfully slow to watch.
He is.
And
He'll definitely be in the last group, will he, Chris?
well, here's the funny thing. Here's the funny thing about this this new tournament, that it's basically 48 players.
Yeah.
It's going to be
24
groups of 2, shotgun start, made for television, get it over and done within 5 hours. So it's going to be a shotgun start. So, I mean, if Kevin Na plays his usual tricks, there's going to be a bloody hold up somewhere, but look, that's what they're going to go for. I mean, let's see what happens. But my fear for these guys who have committed to the new Saudi backed tour is that once some journeyman wins a huge shed of money, then one of the big guys are going to think, well, hang on, if he's able to win that amount, maybe I could do the same. And the first 20 or 30 who are committed to this will be shunted to the sidelines, and they'd be squealing back to the PGA Tour before you can say 4 as quickly as possible. So, yeah, I mean, be careful what you wish for, lads.
I doubt it. I think
didn't Dustin Johnson just announced last week that he's going to play on that?
He's playing, but he hasn't announced he's going to resign. Kevin Na has resigned his tour card and basically handed it back.
They won't resign because, I mean, they are on solid ground as golfers, professional golfers. They are on solid ground. The PGA knows that. The PGA knows that they cannot expel them for playing the game of golf.
So why did Kevin Na do that then?
Kevin Na is only interested in this, and he's going to go on the seniors very soon. So I don't think he's
not that old.
No, but I'm just saying that the PGA and the LIV, I was looking at some programs, and I tell you, they're well, what's the word they say in America? They're well layered up for these things that might happen.
Kevin Na is only 38. He doesn't hit the senior tours for another 12 years.
I mean, Chris, how much money has he won on the tour?
You want to find out?
Yeah, he's one of
so is he going to make more money by being on the Saudi tour?
He is.
So maybe that's what it comes down to.
Joe, the 48 player will get $1 million.
No. The 48 player gets 100,000 guaranteed. The winner gets 3.1 million. I think that should be. It's 25 million per tournament.
Yeah.
If you just for turning up, you get 100,000.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, but he could win $1 million without breaking a sweat if he has any good form.
Yeah, he's 38 years of age, so he hasn't resigned because he's only got a couple of lifts. No. He's resigned because he's basically he knows that there's punishments coming. That's why he's resigned.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it'll be a protected thing. I couldn't imagine if the next major in Britain, the next major up in PGA Tour is the British Open, isn't it?
No, US Open weekend after next.
Or the US Open. Now, if Dustin Johnson is prevented and other people like Lee Westwood and all the rest of them are prevented from participating in the US Open, you can be bloody well sure there'll be a load of writs going in. That's my opinion on it. It's simple.
But I firmly believe that this is going to be a huge court case.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, somebody has got to stand up and fight it. And,
they are, Joe. And I think myself that the PGA want to be very careful because they could they could get a court order preventing the PGA from going ahead, the US Open. If they cannot participate in it, they can get a court order to stop it going ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it'll come to that myself. I don't know. It's interesting time. It's an interesting time. Rory McIlroy, I see, has gone back a good bit on his assessment of the LIV tournament. I don't know what's happening there. I don't know. You can imagine if someone like McIlroy is standing decided to participate in one of the events, you can imagine then there'd be no question of threats or any more court cases.
I don't think there's any. I mean, to be honest, I don't. I mean, let's be honest about it. Is Dustin Johnson, is he not as big as McIlroy? Is Phil Mickelson not as big as McIlroy as a name? I mean, is Sergio Garcia just as big a name? No, I mean, he's won the Masters. You've got Charles Schwartzel.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of these guys in the top 30 top 50 who are going to play in the league.
Louis Susan, lovely golfer. I'd love to go see him.
You know?
Yeah.
But South Africans are like that. South Africans are a bit like that. So they have no loyalty, so I wouldn't worry about that.
I mean, the difference though with McIlroy is well respected in the corridors of power in the PGA. And I think he sits on one of the boards there or what have you.
He does.
So
he does.
For somebody like that with all his connections, if he was to make the crossover, then that would, I think that would be a huge thing for them.
There's
huge problem.
Well, we wish them well. I think there's room for everybody. I think that's my thing, and I think any competition that I suppose highlights the game and showcases the game is worthwhile in my thing. I know people will say about Saudi Arabia and all of that, but look, I'll tell you, the day of politics and sport, we saw ourselves with Wimbledon putting out the shrill. There'll be no Russians at this tournament, and there'll be no one from Belarus at this tournament in Wimbledon coming up because of the war. They didn't mind the slaughter in Iraq, as we said before, they left all the Americans play. But Shinskela, the final whistle is the program in their media. I tell all your friends about us, press the red button to subscribe to our channel. Just quickly, the United Rugby Championship is down to the last 4. Munster were beaten by Ulster 36-17, but the score doesn't reflect the game. It was shocking fare from Munster. And Leinster, of course, had their usual 14 win over Glasgow. So you have the 2 South African Stormers, the Bulls, Leinster and Ulster into the last 4, 2 semi-finals of the competition. Did you see any of the rugby guys?
Saw bits of it now. The Munster game, they look pretty poor. They got away with the scoreline that they got.
They did. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, I mean, they were lucky. It was the one they're lucky to get 7. I think Keith Earls got a try, didn't he?
I think he did. Yeah.
Yeah, Keith Earls got one of the tries. Anyway, that was our rugby. Now in tennis, of course, over the weekend, I saw you had the 2 poorest finals ever in my memory. I like tennis in Roland Garros, without a shadow of a doubt. The women's, as you know, the women players and the men's players get the same prize money. And the women generally, this final could have been over in a half an hour if Swiatek upped her game, but it was over in just slightly over an hour. She beat Coco Gauff 6-1, 6-3 or something like that in over an hour. Nadal came out and proceeded on one leg, really, to beat Casper Ruud from Norway, who got into the final because of Djokovic and Nadal, the only meaningful match in the tournament, met in the quarterfinals. So the 2, top-class players, only one more left. The rest of them were nobodies. Casper Ruud was 19. He was destroyed 6-2, 6-3, 6-love. I mean, you could see Nadal in the end. He had literally one leg because he had pain-killing injections on his foot. And really, honestly, it was a bad, bad tournament for tennis fans, for people who like to see matches in tennis. For Nadal, the 14th time he won in Roland Garros, there's cause to name the centre court from the Philippe Chartier to the Rafael Nadal court. I don't know how that will go down. There's a statue already to him in Roland Garros, but an amazing athlete for 36 years of age. I think we might have seen the last of him. I don't know, lads, did you see any of the tennis over the weekend?
I saw a little bit of it.
Yeah.
But I've wondered for a while how much longer he's going to stick it out. He's been getting a lot of injuries lately, and niggly injuries, and that's kind of a sure sign. And for a game like that is just so athletic and what have you.
Yeah, constant movement.
Yeah, constant movement, and I don't see him staying around for that long.
No.
Not unless he kind of does like what's his name does, and kind of picks and chooses his tournaments.
Federer.
Play every now and again rather than.
I don't have to tell you, Joe, you played the game at the highest level. I mean, in clay, there's no give in clay. People know what I'm talking about. There's no give in clay. Whereas in grass, you have a bit of buoyancy as well, you know, in grass, playing on grass. But every thud on clay is a jarring on your muscles.
Oh, yes.
That really takes its toll. You didn't see any of the tennis, Chris, did you?
I was watching most of it during the week. You know, I just feel that Djokovic is beginning to go backwards. If you think that Nadal was on one leg and was able to beat him in 4 sets, it was a pity what happened to Zverev at the semi-final, because by all accounts, that was an absolute cracking game.
I saw all that match, and 7-6 the first set in the semi-final, and Zverev came right back into. He was out of it a bit in the second set, came right back into to make it 6-all in the second, and Nadal was struggling.
He was struggling,
and then Zverev destroyed his ankle. He tore 3 or 4 ligaments, which is bad as a break, I think. And really and truly, I knew.
The point, though, is that Zverev runs out of steam, so I think Nadal would have beat them in the long run. However, you wouldn't know after. You know, see, they had played. It was over 3 hours for 2 sets.
Yeah.
So you kind of would have wondered. But yeah, I take your point about the 2 finals. They were non-events, and it was, you know, it was a pity. Now, in any sport, finals can do that. Same as in soccer and rugby, finals can be a letdown. It can happen. It's just when I think, tennis is very unlike other knockout sports in that, you know, when it comes down to the seeds, it normally would be 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6. But tennis is different. It's the way that the draw can be done. I mean, Nadal was 1. Djokovic was number 5, yet they played in the quarterfinal. What really should have happened was Nadal should have played Ruud in the quarterfinal and probably would have played Djokovic in the semi-final, right? Yeah. But because of the way they do the seedings in the draw, which is random, that one could play anybody between 5, 6, 7, and 8. You know, so it's not like say
Djokovic, of course, in fairness to the man, hasn't played a lot of tennis, and I think that told towards the end, certainly in the 4th set, when he went 5 against Nadal, he went 5-2 up in the 4th set, and Nadal won at 7-5.
Well, the problem with Djokovic is that he's playing enough tennis, but what's happened is that what happened in Australia has got to him, right? Yes. It has got to him, and that he's now basically chasing his tail because of the stance that he has taken. I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. I'm not going to get into that debate. That's been, you know, that basically but what's happening is that he now has to think more about where he's going, what he's doing, what the regulations are, and what the restrictions are. That it's basically I think it's affected his mind, because he's a guy that when he's positive, he's super positive. Yet when he's negative, he's, you know, it does affect him. You know what I mean? I mean, I remember when he played Andy Murray a few years ago. Murray destroyed him in the Wimbledon final. Absolutely hammered him in 3 sets. A couple of years ago, Federer did the same to Djokovic down in Australia. You know, he has that tendency to do that. He's a very kind of positive individual, and if something upsets him, it gets to him. And I think what's happened over the last 6 months has actually got to him.
I think that I still maintain him. He'd be the favourite for Wimbledon in my book if his head is right.
100%. It's all. I mean, it's, to me, it's like the whole thing. You know, the whole thing. Someone's got him. You know, so something has got to him, and he probably will win Wimbledon, but something has got into his head. That's the problem.
Into the farce in Roland Garros that the ladies and the gents winners have the same prize money.
It's the same in every tournament now.
I know it's. You have a women's final over in an hour and a men's final over 5 hours.
Yeah, but what do you do, Pat? What do you do? I mean, that's
the way it was.
I mean, to be honest with you, I would rather. I mean, let's be honest with you, right? If you think about the last maybe 2 or 3 years in tennis, women's tennis has been very, very decent because there's been so many different winners. But the problem that you have is that when 1 or 2 of the good seeds go out early, you do get that lopsided draw. And when someone like Swiatek, who is extremely strong at this moment in time, if she comes through, and Barty in the Australian Open, if they're good and they stay the course, they'll just destroy anybody, because there are a lot of weak seeds out there in women's tennis. Yeah. There's kind of, and I understand your point, but, you know, could you imagine some of these matches going to 3 to 5 sets? You know, you wouldn't want them. You wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy.
The final whistle is a program on our media. Press the red button on the right-hand side to subscribe to our channel, and thank you to all the subscribers. There was a lot of GA activity over the weekend here in Ireland, and the Munster final was on yesterday between Clare and Limerick. The Leinster final was on Saturday between Kilkenny and Galway, and we had some football preliminary rounds and all of that. But we'll start at nearest home, where Limerick won their 4th Munster title in a row. They didn't do that before. Munster Limerick, the Munster title in a row, first team to do it from Limerick. They won it after extra time. Now, Chris, you were at the match.
Yeah.
I can only guess about the atmosphere, because the atmosphere came through a bit on television. It was a bad day, it's a lot of rain, but still, nevertheless, it didn't bother the players out on the pitch, whether it was raining or snowing or a hurricane or thunder and lightning.
Yeah.
They were both determined to win, and sure enough, it turned out that way.
I'm sitting here now, over 24 hours after the final, and I've been to a few sporting events in my time. I have to say it was probably the most intense atmosphere that I have ever. I mean, John should know I like my sport, but the last 10 minutes of normal time, my legs were shaking. It was that tense. I was actually nearly in tears at the end when Tony Kelly put that ball over the bar, and there was fellas beside me in tears, literally in tears. One fella had to go out to save himself because he was having a bit of a panic attack. It was just an absolutely intense match from start to finish. Luckily, the rain stopped about 5 minutes before throwing, and it stayed until extra time. And to be honest with you, from where I was standing behind the goals in the Clare end, I couldn't even see the ball at the far end of the time because the floodlights are on. It was very misty. You're basically hoping to see where the players are going more than anything else. But honestly, I mean,
well,
look, I'll be honest with you. I mean, as I was saying to a guy last night when I came back to Shannon, I mean, pride in the Clare performance. They've basically, they went toe to toe for 85 minutes with the best team this country has seen in the last 15 years. That's the best way I can put it.
And we must say, for people who didn't see the match or weren't at the match, that Tony Kelly was taken off the freeze because he had missed quite a few frees. He was taken off the freeze before the sideline event ever happened, and Peter Duggan was taking the freeze. This sideline cut then came, and he knew the referee had said, this is the last puck of the match. They were a point down. The angle that he had for that cut would not suit most players, in my opinion. But the way Kelly ran up to the ball, the determination in his face on television, people wouldn't have seen him on the ground. We saw him on television. I said, he's going to get this.
Well, can I just stop you there, because I had the radio on. I had RTE on, RTE National Radio commentary of the match, because when you're so far away, you do need to have you do need to see who names, whatever. Okay. So the two commentators were on, and they said the ball is between the 14 and the 20, which is an acute angle. It's so acute, you're looking at maybe, I don't know, 20 degrees at most, right? And Shane McGrath, the ex-Tipperary hurler, was on. He says, he's not going to get it. Now, you said to me that the referee went over and said this is the last puck of the game. If that's what happened, I don't know. I take your word for that, right? But you see when the ball went over, the whole stadium shook. Literally, the whole stadium shook.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those moments that it was just a privilege to be there. The man, Tony Kelly, gave an absolute exhibition. Seamus Flanagan for Limerick gave an absolute point-scoring exhibition, 8 from play.
Gillan
was quiet enough because he was Paul Flanagan, the Clare defender, was absolutely brilliant. John Conlon, 100% brilliant. Dermot Burns for Limerick had one of these off days, but you know what? And there's a guy that we've said that even my young lad would say to me about Declan Hannon. Declan Hannon, just before Tony Kelly's point, he got the point for about 95 yards, and we were wondering how many Limerick people were actually there. But see, when he put the ball over the bar, there must have been 25,000 Limerick green jerseys just up in their feet.
I know.
What an absolute shot he gave. It was just superb.
And Joe, did you see any of that?
No, I didn't see it. I followed it on they have it in the paper where you can get the updates on it and what have you. So no, I just read about it. I got online as soon as I could to read about it last night, and just and I saw a couple of posts on Facebook this morning by people that watched it, and I'm kind of sad now that I missed it because it sounded like a barn burner of a game.
Can I point out about the Tony Kelly? There's a video going around, right? And I only saw it last night. That when Tony Kelly went to take that sideline cut, someone threw what looked like a plastic bottle onto the field past him. And it was a bit like when maybe, if you remember, when Dublin scored a winning point against Mayo and one of the Mayo players threw their GPS unit at him as he was kicking the ball.
Yeah.
Dean Rock it was who was taking the free for Dublin to win a match, win the All-Ireland for Dublin against Mayo. It was similar to that where the bottle came over as Tony Kelly was just about to strike. Thank God the ball didn't hit the bottle.
he wouldn't even have seen that. You know,
and I'd like to see it again because I don't know whether he curled it in or just went like a bullet. I don't know, but as I said, it's immaterial how it went over as long as it did go.
Well, now for people who are confused about fixtures and all, obviously before we do that, Kilkenny beat Galway in a dour match, a dour game, a dour Sully game, which reflected the manager of Kilkenny very much indeed, the team itself. And they doggedly won the match 22 points to 17. I mean, for God's sake. And Galway got 8 points, lads, on play. And Kilkenny got 10 points on play in a Leinster final.
Yeah.
And they have designed. Now, Kilkenny are into an All-Ireland semi-final. So I would suggest that any other team will be delighted to draw Kilkenny in the semi-final. With all due respect to Kilkenny.
No, you see, that's the problem you see about Kilkenny because they have a defence. You know what I mean? And that's they have built their team for defence. I mean, they don't have a forward line apart from TJ Reid. I mean, Walter Walsh, who was one of the players, I mean, he came on as a sub with 25 minutes ago and didn't contribute. And you wonder why is he there? But obviously he's there. Kilkenny will always keep themselves in the match because they have that defensive unit and that's what they build on. And they hope to get frees. I mean, look, if any team yesterday in Thurles scored 10 points from play, they'd have been beaten out the gate. They'd have been hammered. It wouldn't have gone to extra time. It probably wouldn't even gone to the second half. That's the problem, right? There was more scores from play in the first half yesterday than the entire Leinster final. That's it. And there's always been that thing about Munster saying Munster beat themselves. They have every match is a dogfight that when it comes to playing the Leinster teams in like Kilkenny, they're battle scarred and battle weary. But I honestly think, to be totally honest with you, I'd be stunned if it's not a Clare and Limerick All-Ireland final because there's nothing. I mean, I'd be honest with you, I was looking forward to that Leinster hurling final on Saturday evening. Went home, sat down, watched it, and you know what? Bitterly disappointed in Galway. I mean, they've got one forward in Conor Whelan who had 2 balls in the first few minutes in the first half, stuck him over, brilliant skill, did the same in the first 2 minutes of the second half, got 2 balls, fantastic skills, took him off, and they just basically didn't give him the ball. And Kilkenny hunted in packs, they closed them down. Galway made the wrong option all the time, were given the wrong pass, hurried passes, stupid passes, and they're not a reflection of what Henry Shefflin is all about. Maybe they don't have the players. I don't know. But the thing about it is that if I'm sitting there now and John, the Limerick manager, I'd be thinking, John Kiley, I'd be sitting there thinking, we've 4 weeks to an All-Ireland semi-final. Let's see what happens in the All-Ireland quarterfinals. It's possible that they will play Cork in the semi-final. They will not fear them.
No. And Clare could meet Kilkenny on the other side, and they won't be one bit afraid of Kilkenny.
No, they won't. I mean, Clare will will play the way they're playing now, and they've got a renewed confidence about them. The only problem I would say is that they probably don't have the bench like what Limerick do, and that's the problem.
Probably, but the other cracking match over the weekend, apart from the Munster final, was Antrim and Kerry. 5-5. I forget the score, but Antrim won by a point against Kerry in the hurling. And Antrim now, of course, Cork are playing Antrim next Saturday.
Oh, Jesus, stop.
In Corrigan Park. I think there's a capacity of 3,000.
Yeah.
3,000 Corrigan Park. I don't think you'll have 3,000 people going up from Cork because the match is on at 2:00. And obviously, whatever way it transpires, I don't know how it'll turn out. You'd have to fancy Cork, really. Not because
Cork could beat them well. Cork could beat them well. I mean, Antrim. I mean, I watched bits of it. Watched the lot. I mean, Antrim were well up against Kerry, and Kerry came back with them.
Oh, they were.
There was a dubious penalty. There was a dubious black card.
They were 13 or 14 points ahead one time, Antrim against Kerry.
Yeah.
And they won by a point.
Antrim are very loose. I mean, to be honest with you, you could see Cork could just you could easily see. Do you remember it was a couple of years ago? Cork played Westmeath in this type of match, right? That they played the winners of the McDonald Cup, and Cork scored a goal in 40 points. I could see the same thing happen. They just point all day long.
I won a few bob in the bookies that Cork would score 40 points or more.
Yeah.
Do you remember they were on 39 points?
Yeah.
I think they gave 8 to 1 in the book because I put €5, 8 to 1.
140 they scored.
I was watching the match and they were at 39 points for age. And I had my doctor for the But geez, they did get the 40th point though.
Could be the same.
So
it could be the same. It could be the same.
What's happened with Cork then? I mean, have they just turned it around?
No.
Because they're still there.
They did. Cork had a round robin and they were hockeyed in the first match by Limerick. They were hockeyed in the second match by Waterford.
No, Clare beat them in the second game.
Clare beat them, in the second game. They went down to Waterford then for the third match, Joe. Cork did. And it was a winner takes all in the sense that if Cork had lost that match, the journey home would be a long one. But for some inexplicable reason, I can't put my finger on it. Waterford never got going. I'm not taking from Cork's win. Cork turned Waterford over. And then in the last match against Tipperary, they beat Tipperary.
But that was a very poor Tipperary team.
And that was a poor Tipperary team. So a poor Waterford team as well. And so that's how they got the third place in Munster. So Clare and Limerick were already qualified for the Munster final. And then there was the third place team, which played in the qualifiers afterwards. Because Clare are into the quarterfinal, Limerick are into the semi-final, Cork are playing Antrim. The winners of that match will be playing Galway did proper in the quarterfinal. And so Cork will be playing Galway in one quarterfinal. And
Clare play Wexford side. Wexford play Kerry, the winners play Clare. So Clare, think about it this way. The best way of saying it is that Cork will play Galway, Clare will play Wexford.
Yeah. And the winners of those then will be into the semi-final against Limerick and Kilkenny. And we're predicting that Cork and Limerick in one semi-final and Clare and Kilkenny in the other semi-final.
Yeah, I mean, I feel I will not be surprised if it's Clare and Limerick in an All-Ireland final.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me either, but could be Cork and Clare as well, but you never know. Hope is always a good thing, Joe, to have when you're talking about sport. And the soccer season in America, I didn't look it up at all. Is it still going?
It's still going.
Summer. It's the summer. It plays through the summer, does it?
Yes.
There's two conferences of 14 teams each. I know that.
Yeah.
28 teams there's 14 in each. And then how does it transpire then at the end? Is it the top two from each conference meeting semi-finals, or is there
well what you have is that you'll have an Eastern Conference playoff and you'll have Western Conference playoff. And I'm not exactly sure how it all works once it gets past that.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how many teams go forward in it. I'd have to look it up, and we're not at that stage yet. I haven't looked. And Seattle seemed to have, after they won the CONCACAF Champions League, they seem to have gone off the boil a little bit.
They did. LA Galaxy on the other side seem to be up second or third.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. They seem to be very consistent. That's what I mean.
Yeah. Soccer here is very, very, very healthy. Very healthy.
It is big. And anyway, that's our soccer. That's our lot for this week, lads. Go on.
But Pat, did you see that the Canadian national team went on strike?
They did?
Yeah. Canadian men's soccer team went on strike and a game had to be cancelled because of it. And they went on strike because of the deal that the Canadian Football Association was offered the men and the women. So that was one for the books right there.
It was, and also the American women, as we know, won their right to have equal pay for their international appearances and all of that. I think it's only right because the US women's soccer team have been very successful, you know, as a brand, and have been more successful than the men in recent years. You know, I don't know where America are in the qualifying. I forgot to look it up for the World Cup. I don't know, but Canada are in a playoff, I think, in one of the Oceania areas for the World Cup.
The men or the women?
The men.
The men. I think the men have qualified for the US have qualified for the World Cup. I think Canada have qualified as well.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why this issue is coming up. It's only good. I'm just looking forward to it in one way, lads, because in the month of December, we're generally quiet. In the month of December this year, for the first time ever, we'll be sitting down to our Christmas dinner and maybe watching the World Cup final, Chris. How does that grab you?
It's like Christmas. It'd be a bit, well, look, it's a bit like turkeys voting for Christmas, really, isn't it? You know, I mean,
no, I much prefer doing it. I much prefer being in Cabo San Lucas watching it from the swimming pool.
Yes. Have you seen the times the match is on it?
No.
Yeah.
At 10 o'clock in the morning is the first match of the day, and then it's they're running it, try and get it over in 4 weeks. They're playing 4 matches a day, and there's only I think a 3-day group break between matches. So, and they're playing them all in little bubbles, so you don't have any traveling. Although Qatar's not that big of a country, but it's all being run off. It's a bit like the GAA. It's all been run off in decent taste to get the matches done. And as I said at the top of the show, like Ireland are playing 4 matches. Like it does seem like a box ticking exercise to get these matches done and dusted. You know.
Yeah. And before we go, lads, I want to wish Anna Moore, our regular panelist here, well. She got bitten. Yes, I think she got bitten by a cat. I know it's not very serious, thank God, and she's just feeling a bit under the weather. And tonight, we wish her well, you know.
Yes, get well soon, Anna.
We hope it wasn't a black cat, Anna. That's all.
I think it was a green and white one.
If it's a Kilkenny cat just all across the road, that's what
a Kilkenny cat, you know, trying to put a hex on the Limerick team. But from Joe Waters, from Chris Price and myself, lads, till we meet again next Monday on the Final Whistle, to take care, goodbye, and good luck.
See you guys.
Take care, lads.
Bye.